This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so good afternoon, and tonight and tomorrow is what is called Purim Katan, the minor Purim. The reason being that this year we have 13 months. Why do we have 13 months? 2 Adars. How often do we have 13 months in a year? Close to 3 years. 7 out of every 19 is more precise. And why do we have that? Keep the holidays in their seasons. We follow a lunar year, 354 days, as opposed to 365 days. But the holidays need to be in their proper season. A reason given for that is that what's happening in the world down here in the physical world is a reflection, a manifestation of what's happening in the spiritual realm. Therefore, Pesach did not just happen to fall out during the time of springtime. Springtime is a time of rejuvenation, of a coming back to life, and therefore that was what was in the air, so to speak. That was with the spiritual forces available. Pesach time that were maximized, and thereby we had the Exodus. Therefore, when we reenact the Exodus every year, it's got to be at that time when we have that spiritual availability. So we need to adjust our years. Islam also follows a lunar calendar. They do not adjust, and therefore their holidays move back 11 days every year. So their Ramadan that's coming up, right now it's the winter, right? Go back a little bit, and it was, it wasn't spring, now it's winter or spring, right? And it just keeps moving back. I think it works out that if a Jew and a Muslim were born on the same day, then when the Jew turns 33, the Muslim turns 34. That's when we have all those 11 days turn into a full year. Okay? So we have to adjust. So we adjust by adding a second month of Adar. Now, the question, though, is, which is the real Adar, right? Which is the real Adar and which is the added in month? That's one way of looking at it we will begin with, and then we'll hear from Rav Schechter a different approach in the name of Rav Soloveitchik. But the simple approach is, which is the real Adar? And that will, of course, have ramifications when it comes to Purim. So Purim, we know, is not tonight and tomorrow, right? So therefore we know that it's going to be the second Adar. It also has ramifications when it comes to bar mitzvah, Bnei Mitzvah, bar and bat mitzvah, and also when it comes to commemorating a yahrtzeit. Yes, Esther.
So for Purim, are there any kind of things that you do at all?
We'll see about that. It's somewhat festive in that we don't say the parts of davening which are more associated with din, with judgment, with sadness. We don't say tachanun. On Shabbos, we won't say tzidkas tzedek. We won't say avarachamim. So we omit some of the things of davening. If someone has a yahrtzeit, then we will not make a kel malei rachamim on Shabbos, right? So those sort of things. It's a day where one would not fast. If a person wants to take on a personal fast. So there are certain aspects. You don't have to get drunk, for the record. Okay, it's not Purim in that way, right? The other mitzvot of Purim we'll soon see, but basically that is how it manifests itself. Now with these 2 Adars, so that presents a great trivia question. If you're ever at someone's house and they say, "Oh, do you have a Devar Torah to share?" So it's always good to have some up your sleeve that are not Parsha related. If it's Parsha related, you have a 1 in 52 chance of it working out for you. If it's not Parsha related, then you're gold, right? So a good Jewish trivia question is, how do you have a situation where one boy was born 3 weeks after his friend, but his bar mitzvah will come out before his friend? Okay, so right? So have them mull that over as they're chewing on their whatever it is that they're eating, right? And the answer would come about with what we were discussing with the two Adars. Let's say on the year that they're born, there were two Adars. So one boy was born on the 15th of Adar. The other boy was born 3 weeks of the first Adar. The other boy was born 3 weeks later, let's say 7 days by Adar Sheni. So he's born 3 weeks later. He's 3 weeks younger. The year of their bar mitzvah, there's only one Adar. So therefore, the one who was born on the 15th of Adar has his bar mitzvah on the 15th. One who was born on the 15th of the first Adar has his bar mitzvah on the 15th of the only Adar that year. The boy who was born on the 7th of Adar Sheni, 3 weeks later, will have his bar mitzvah on the 7th of that Adar, the only month of Adar that we have. So let's start to examine some of the sources and get a sense of which way we go. So many of us are familiar. Well, we know that when it comes to Pesach, to Purim, actually I gave it away. When it comes to Purim, we go with the second one. Let's see why that is, and we'll see if that's going to work the same way when it comes to yahrtzeit and when it comes to Bnei Mitzvah. So we have a Mishnah in the tractate of Megillah. Talmud Megillah 6b, the Mishnah says, Karu et ha-Megillah ba'adar harishon. If they read the Megillah on Adar Rishon, we have our calendars all set up, and we've got 7 out of every 19 years. Hillel, a later Hillel, set that up for all time until Mashiach. So we know in advance 2 Adars, 1 Adar. But that was not always the case. When it was determined by the Beit Din, it would be a line of scrimmage call that they would make, and that needed to be made before the end of Adar. But it could feasibly have been made after the 14th, 15th of Adar, and then they decided to add an additional month. In which case, what happened? Karu et ha-Megillah b'Adar Rishon. They read the Megillah on the first Adar, thinking that was it. There'll be 1 Adar that year. They read the Megillah. They celebrated their Purim. And then V'nit Abra Hashana. And then they made the year into a leap year. The Beit Din decided we need to have a second. So now what do? Korin ota ba'adar sheni. They've got to read it again in Adar Sheni. So the reading that they did in the first Adar will not be considered a proper reading, a proper observance of Purim, a proper fulfillment of their Purim mitzvah, because there's a second Adar, and it needs to be read in that second Adar. Oh, so we'll come to that soon. Thank you, Steve. Ein bein Adar Rishon l'Adar Sheni, ela kriyat ha-Megillah u'matanot le'evyonim. The only difference will be the reading of the Megillah and the matanot le'evyonim, the reading of the Megillah and the gifts that we give to the poor. So how many mitzvahs do we have on Purim, and what are the 4 special Purim mitzvot? Reading Megillah, number 1. Mishloach manot, sending food gifts, good. Gift to the poor, and the seudah, and the festive meal that we have. Now, seemingly, when the Gemara says matanot le'evyonim, why do we give the monetary gifts to the poor? In order to enable them to have a Purim Seudah. So it seems that we're doing the other 3 mitzvot, which is the meal, Mishloach Manot, the food gifts, and the poor person's gifts. We're lumping them all in. So there is no difference between the first Adar and the second Adar, just those mitzvot. But as we mentioned earlier, when it comes to certain things that we would abstain from on Purim, fasting, eulogizing, all those things, we also abstain from that in the first Adar. The Gemara brings a little bit further, and that's where it says there, Ditanya. It is brought in a Braita. Karat Megillah, once again, they read the Megillah ba'Adar Harishon. in the first Adar. V'nit abra hashana, and then the year became a shana me'uberet with an additional month. Korinota ba'adar hasheni. We will then read the Megillah again, Adar Sheni. Shekol mitzvot shenogol b'sheni nogol b'rishon chutz mikra Megillah. All of the mitzvot that are done in the second Adar are also done in the first Adar, except for the reading of the Megillah. And again, we're going to understand that to mean Megillah and the other mitzvot that accompany it. The mitzvot are Adar Sheni. Not everyone agrees. Could you believe that? We actually have two opinions here. Rabbi Elazar Yossi Omer, he says no. Ein korin ota ba'adar sheni. Don't read it in Adar Sheni. Shekol mitzvah shenogol b'sheni nogol b'rishon. All of those mitzvot that are done in the second can be done in the first. And therefore, once it was read in the first Adar, you fulfilled your mitzvah. You are good to go. There is no reason to do it again. So we seem to have a machloket here, at least at first glance, which is the real Adar, which is the real month. Is it the first Adar, and that is when the mitzvot of Purim should be fulfilled? Is it the second Adar, and that is when the mitzvot should be fulfilled? The Gemara unpacks this. Bishlama Rabbi Eliezer, it is good according to Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yossi, mistaber tama. His reason is mistaber, is very, very svara. It's very logical. He says, do it the first one. We have a general rule, ein ma'avirin al ha-mitzvot. You don't pass by a mitzvah. If you have an opportunity to do it, you should do it at your first available time that you can, right? Don't pass it by. Ein ma'avirin al ha-mitzvot. So why should we wait till the second Adar? You have the opportunity, the gift of doing this mitzvah. Do it at the earliest possible time. So here we understand. Ella, but the Gemara continues. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, my Tama. Shimon Gamliel says, wait till the second Adar. You did it in the first one. Now there's a second one. The first one doesn't count. Even though you did it at the earliest possible time, we don't count that. That doesn't work. You've got to wait till the second one to do it. My Tama. What is his reason, Cheryl? Oh, yeah. Oh, so let me just finish this thought, and then I'll come to your question. The Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Tavi, Tama. The reason of Shimon Gamliel is mismach geula legeula adif. We want to have back-to-back redemption. Mismach, to bring close, geula, redemption, to redemption, adif. That takes precedence. Meaning, even though normally we have the concept of ein ma'avirin ala mitzvot, we don't pass by a mitzvah, do it at the earliest possible time that you can. Over here, Pesach, which comes down in the month of Nisan, the Exodus, that is redemption. Purim, in the month of Adar, that was also a redemption from the clutches of Haman and Achashverosh and their plans to eradicate, wipe out every last Jew on the planet. So therefore, we want to have back-to-back redemption. So the Gemara hasn't really said which is the real Adar. The Gemara says there's a reason to do it the first one, because you don't want to pass by a mitzvah. There's a reason to do it the second one, because you want to have back-to-back redemptions. And the halacha and the opinion of Shimon Gamliel is that takes precedence over the first one. Okay? Yes, Dov.
Isn't it kind of logical that 30 days prior to Pesach, it should be a warning and start to get ready?
That's true. Yep, that we do. Yes, Cheryl.
So I was thinking, why don't we have the second extra month on Iyar. Isn't that a month that doesn't have any holidays?
ER actually does have, it has Pesach Sheni,
Well, there's one,
right? Cheshvan, Mar Cheshvan. Yes. So the reason being that, well, one of the main reasons that would determine the need, one of the main factors, let me put it like that, right? But besides the seasons, right? So we need to have 7 out of every 19, but it doesn't need to be this year as opposed to that year. We could have passed this year and done it next year instead, or vice versa, right? So the Beit Din would determine it based also on how were the crops doing that year, how are the travelings going to be in terms of getting to Yerushalayim for the pilgrimage holidays for Pesach. So there were other factors that were going in that were agriculturally related, and therefore Adar, right? That's a logical reason. I believe also, though I don't have it on my fingertips, I believe also that we learn out that it's got to be, I'm not sure. Let's go with that. There might be more of a scriptural source or basis why it is Adar that gets doubled. Okay, I'm not sure. I could look into that. That's a good question, Cheryl. Okay, so when it comes to Purim, we go with the second Adar, but it's not clear that that is the Adar, right? We had reason to go with the first, which in fact Rabbi Yossi goes with, and that is ein ma'avin al mitzvot. An opportunity comes your way, a mitzvah opportunity comes your way, don't pass it by. And we also have Rav Shimon Leo's reasoning that over here, more important than not passing by, meaning here we can pass by since we want to have back-to-back redemptions. Okay, let's continue on now to, yes, questions on? Let's continue on now to Bnei Mitzvah, right? So we mentioned before the Jewish trivia question. How do you have a person who's born 3 weeks after his friend, but has his bar mitzvah prior to his friend? And that was that one of them was born in the first Adar, the second one was born weeks later in the second Adar, and then at the time of their bar mitzvah, there's only one Adar. So the boy who was born the 15th of Adar 1 will have his bar mitzvah on the 15th of Adar, and the boy who was born on the 7th of Adar 2, 3 weeks later, will have his bar mitzvah on the 7th of Adar, 1 week or 8 days earlier. So that's simple. The question is, let's say a person was born when there was only one Adar. Let's say a person was born when, right, and if a person is born, right, if a person is born when there's two Adars, and on the year of their bar mitzvah, there are two Adars, that's also simple, right? You're born Adar Aleph, bar mitzvah Adar Aleph. I was born Adar Beis, my bar mitzvah, right? I don't remember if there were 1 or 2 Adars that year, but if there were 2 Adars, it would have been Adar Beis. Simple. But what happens when a person is born on a year where there's only one Adar, and the year of the bar mitzvah, there are 2 Adars? So when does the person actually become bar mitzvah? Now, bar mitzvah is not simply, a celebration and a party. There are halachic ramifications of being bar mitzvah. Leading services. The reason why the bar mitzvah boy reads from the Torah and leads services is because this is the first time where he's able to represent the congregation, lead the congregation, and only someone who is obligated can lead us in our obligatory service. If he's not obligated, then he can't be the one who's leading us in our service. So that's why he does it. So at what point does he actually become bar mitzvah? Halachic ramifications. When can he lead the services? Right? When do his mitzvot? I was just talking to now that I met with a couple last night whose daughter is becoming bat mitzvah. They were talking about the celebration and we said, let's put the celebration aside for a moment, and let's understand what happens. And I like to compare it. You've got this massive stadium that's being built, right? That can seat 80,000 people. And there are all of these electric circuit breakers, right? That when you hit those breakers, all of a sudden it can be pitch black at night, and all of a sudden the lights go on, and that place looks like daylight. It is bathed in light. So different points along the way, different people hit those breakers. Look outside. Oh, you hit the breakers, but the lights haven't gone on. It's only once all the wiring is properly attached, that's when you hit the breakers and the stadium gets lit up. Every mitzvah that we do, mitzvah meaning commandment, every mitzvah that we do is lighting up the universe. We don't see it, but it's lighting up the universe. Until a boy is bar mitzvah or a girl is bat mitzvah, what are they doing? They're practicing how to lift those breakers. They're practicing how do you do these things. But it's not having this illuminating cosmic effect. Comes the bar mitzvah, comes the bat mitzvah, they put on the tefillin, she lights the candles, she makes the bracha, he says whatever it is that they do, all of a sudden the wires are attached and the universe is lit up by their action. So when does this happen? Does it happen Adar 1? Does this happen Adar 2? So we go to our Shulchan Aruch, the second side of the sheet that we gave out. Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim 55:10. Okay? Now, this is Orach Chaim deals with the day-to-day halachot. Shulchan Aruch, the set table is the name of our code of Jewish law. 4 parts to it. There is the Choshen Mishpat, the monetary business laws. There is Even HaEzer, which is the man-woman, marriage, divorce, etc. laws. There is Yoredeya, teaching of knowledge, which comprises the laws of kashrut, the laws of family purity, the laws of mezuzah, and the laws of mourning. And then there's Orach Chaim, which is the way of life, the path of life, which is the day-to-day, whether it's prayers, whether it is brachot, blessings, whether it is holidays, all of those things. So when it comes to 55:10 is towards the beginning, and there are 6 different volumes, let's say, of that or whatever, it's towards the beginning, and it's talking about a minyan. Oh, there's a certain parts of davening for which we need to have a minyan, a quorum. A quorum means 10 adult men. That's what we need to know. Well, when does that happen? So there we read, Im nar echad nolad b'chav tet ladar rishon mishana muberet. One lad was born the 29th day of the first month of Adar. There's a year that he was born a year. There were 2 Adars. Day 29 of Adar 1. V'nar acher, and another child, nolad ba'adar sheni be'echad bo. Another child was born 2 days later or the next day, whatever it is, on the first day of Adar Sheni. Ushnat Yud Gimel Eina Mu'uberet. And the 13th year is not a leap year. So like we said before, Oto Shenolad B'Chavtel Adar Harishon, the boy who was born 29 of Adar 1, Tzarech Lahamta needs to wait till the 29th day of Adar. B'Shnat Yud Gimel, of his 13th year, Liot Ben Yud Gimel Shana, to be Bar Mitzvah. It's the 29th day of Adar. And the Oto Shenolad Acharav, and the boy born the next day, on the first day of Adar Sheni, he will be Ben Yud Gimel Shana, Kevan Shigia Echad Ba'adar Shel Shnat Yud Gimel. A full month earlier. This one on the 29th of the Adar, the boy born after him on the first day of Adar. On that the Ramah says, Haggah, Umi Shenolad Ba'adar, someone who was born in Adar, V'naseh bar mitzvah b'shnat ha'ibur, right? Born in a year, there's only one Adar, and now becomes bar mitzvah during a year of shana me'uberet. We have two Adars. Eino nase bar mitzvah ad Adar ha-sheni. He will not become bar mitzvahed until the second Adar. Why is that? Hello, Ken. Why is that? Okay, so it could very well be that this shows us the real Adar is the second Adar. Or, as Cheryl said, to be double sure, meaning that maybe we're not sure, and therefore for him to start leading services the first Adar, he might still be a minor, and therefore that's not going to work, right? Therefore, we'll play it safe, and he will not be able to play that role of leading the congregation in our obligations, which he can only do if he is fully obligated, until we hit the second Adar. At that point, it's very, very clear. Now, an interesting note that I saw, there is a custom for, well, let's put it like this. A little boy will already start to wear a kippah, right? At a young age, a little boy could also start to wear tzitzit. However, when it comes to tefillin, there we don't have a little boy wearing tefillin. We wait until he is just about bar mitzvah. So why do we jump and get started with the kippah and the tzitzit, but not with the tefillin?
Kippah's not obligated.
Okay. Well, tzitzit, or kippah is not obligated. Tzitzit are obligated if you're wearing a four-cornered garment. If you're not. But on the contrary, so it's something that's a real obligation. That's where we should really start the training. We should start the training earlier. If it's a real obligation, get started on the training at the earliest possible point. Okay, but that's always the case. That's always the case. See, now I know I get the big bucks around here. Okay. Right? So tefillin is different because for tefillin, there needs to be a certain focus, a certain concentration that a person has. This is a piece of cloth that's meant there to remind us that there's a God, there's a separation between this brain and God above, right? And don't think I can fathom everything. That's what this serves. If it reminds me, it reminds me. Doesn't remind me, there's no affront that I'm wearing this, right? Tzitzit is also meant to be a reminder. If I'm wearing a four-corner garment, I have that as a reminder. If it reminds me, there's no inherent kedusha. A kippah gets worn out. Can you throw it away? Yes, you can throw it away. We would do it in a respectful manner. A tzitzit or a talit gets worn out. That can also be thrown away. We do it in a respectful manner. Tefillin has kedusha. Tefillin has holiness. And therefore, if I'm wearing the tefillin without that proper concentration, that is a problem. So we don't have little kids wearing tefillin. We wait till they're bar mitzvah, or we wait until before they're bar mitzvah. There are those that say typically we wait 1 month before. Some wait even 3 months before, but typically it's 1 month before. So there's an idea that's presented that the reason we wait a month before is because of this very situation. Meaning that we are, right, we're doubly sure, like Cheryl said. We want to wait for sure till the second month of Adar. But maybe it's the first month of Adar. In which case his obligations begin, right? So we're not sure. So we're not going to have him leading the services because maybe not. At the same time, he should start to wear his tefillin. And if he's not yet bar mitzvah, he's close enough. This will give him good training. If he is bar mitzvah, then we're good to go, right? And therefore, and then that spreads everywhere. A bar mitzvah boy, typically 30 days before his bar mitzvah, will start to wear his tefillin. There are those that say that's based on this situation. When you have an Adar Bet, an Adar Aleph, a second Adar, first Adar, we wait till the second Adar, but maybe really his obligation begins in the first Adar. But we play it very safe, and we therefore wait until the second Adar. So when it comes to Purim, we go with the second Adar. It's debated in the Talmud, but we follow the opinion that says the second Adar, Geula, redemption, Samuch, back to back. When it comes to Bnei Mitzvah, well, we don't know for sure that he's obligated until the second Adar, and therefore we can't have him playing a leading role, that through him we will fulfill our obligations. We go with Adar Bet. How about yahrtzeit? Okay, yahrtzeit at the anniversary of someone's passing, and there are those who have a custom to fast on the yahrtzeit. Kaddish is said. Also, if possible, one leads the services, and there actually is a whole order, a pecking order, so to speak, of who will have the right to the bima, right? If it's the yahrtzeit of a parent, that will come before yahrtzeit over anyone else besides a parent, be it sibling, spouse, child. Also, in certain congregations, this is actually a German custom, only one person says Kaddish. You don't have everyone saying Kaddish. One person says Kaddish. So who gets to say the Kaddish? And the Gabbai will give out, will distribute. You'll say the first Kaddish, you'll say this Kaddish, you'll say Kaddish Rabbanan. And who has the greater obligation? So yahrtzeit is actually very important. When should the yahrtzeit be observed? So again, it's simple. If the person passed away on a year where there are two Adars, so then on the yahrtzeit year there's one Adar, there's only one choice. On a yahrtzeit year where there are two Adars, so the yahrtzeit will be observed in the Adar. Passed away Adar 1, yahrtzeit Adar 1. Passed away Adar 2, yahrtzeit Adar 2. The question comes up, as we had before, by bar and bat mitzvah. Let's say the person passed away during a year where there was one Adar. And now, like this year, there are two Adars. So when is the yahrtzeit commemorated? Is it the first Adar? Is it the second Adar? And actually, this is a machloket, and we have different opinions between the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, written by Rav Yosef Karo, and the Ramah, the notes that were added on by Rav Moshe Isserles, presenting the custom amongst the Ashkenazic communities, whereas Rav Yosef Karo was more of the Sephardic communities. And as I heard Rabbi Beryl Wine on one of his history tapes explain that both Rav Yosef Karo and the Ramah were writing their magnus opus of Code of Jewish Law, and Rav Yosef Karo finished his first, sent it to the Ramah for his approval, for him to peruse it. The Ramah realized that if he were to present, there were mostly the same, some differences, mostly based on different customs amongst the Ashkenazic and the Sephardic communities. And he realized that if he were to publish his own, then we would have two Torahs in Israel, and it would cause a breach amongst the people of Israel. And therefore, he, instead of giving his own, instead of publishing his own, he added notes to that of the Shulchan Aruch, and therefore everyone learns the same Shulchan Aruch. And when there is a disparity, that's where we will have slight different minhagim. Chanukah, for example. So Ashkenazic homes, every person lights a Chanukiah. You could have many Chanukiot in one home. Sephardic home, the person in charge, the Baal Bayit, lights one Chanukiah. That's it. Finished. Pesach time, we don't eat the kitniyot. Ashkenazim don't eat all of those bean or bean derivatives. The Sfardim do. Slichot, we start saying Slichot before Rosh Hashanah, the Saturday night before Rosh Hashanah, as long as the minimum 4 days. They start already going back to Rosh Chodesh Adar. Yes, Your Honor.
Because you mentioned if you're invited to a party and you're asked to bring your Hanukkah with you to light as a group, does that count? Or when you get home, do you have to do it again?
Yeah, so that's a bit problematic because the mitzvah is to light in your home, right? So if you bring a Chanukiah there, I don't think you should even make a bracha when you're lighting over there, right? If it's in a shul, there we have the custom that we light in the shul as a zecher to the mikdash. So here I do make a bracha, but then I go home and make another bracha when I light at home, right? But if it's not in a shul and it's not your home, then lighting is it might be a nice communal thing, but I would say you would not make a bracha on that. Okay, I don't want to get too sidetracked on that.
Also, in the shul, it's considered the communal home.
Correct. So what happens when it comes to a yahrtzeit? So Shulchan Aruch 568-7, right? Remember, right, that the other one was chapter 55 or 54. That was towards the beginning of Orach Chaim, where we were discussing the laws of davening, counting a boy towards a minyan or not. Here, 568, this is going well past that. This is the laws of fasting, of taking on a fast, which comes after the laws of Tisha B'Av. This is towards the very end of Orach Chaim. And there are those, as we mentioned, who fast on a yahrtzeit. Kisheira Yom Shemet Aviv O Imo. If it falls out the day that one's father or mother died, Ba'adar, and they passed away during the month of Adar, V'hashana Mu'ubar, and now this year that he or she is commemorating the yahrtzeit is a shana Mu'uberet. It's a leap year, 2 Adars. On which Adar will the yahrtzeit be commemorated? Yit'aneh, he will fast, meaning the yahrtzeit will be observed, and he's understanding that it's observed through a fasting. It will Yit'aneh ba'adar bet. So according to the Shulchan Aruch, we have all three are consistent. Purim, Adar Bet, Bar Mitzvah, Adar Bet, Yahrtzeit, Adar Bet. Haga, the notes, the gloss, Rav Moshe Isserles, the Ramah, the Yesh Omrim, there are those that say, Diyit Aneh Berishon, that the yahrtzeit should be observed when? On the first Adar. Imlo shemet b'shnat ha'ibor ba'adar sheni das noag l'dano b'sheni. Right? Unless, of course, the year the person died, there were 2 Adars, and the person died in the second Adar, then the yahrtzeit would be in the second Adar. For the year the person died, there was only 1 Adar, so then it would be observed on the first Adar. Now, what is his? So give me some reasons why we would go with the first Adar. We've had some already. Apply them over here. Why would we go with the first Adar?
Well, it's more accurate to when the deceased died.
Well, not necessarily, because we don't know which is the real Adar. What was the reason that we said by Megillah reading to go with the first Adar? Right? Ein mavirin ala mitzvot. You don't pass by a mitzvah. So over here, right, this is giving honor. This is giving honor to this deceased parent. So therefore, we would want to give the honor at the earliest possible opportunity. Why wait until the second Adar when we can give honor to the deceased parent right away? So that would be a reason why we'd say, right, give honor right away. Don't pass by on that opportunity. Then he says, V'chein haminhag, litanot berishon, And that, in fact, is the prevalent custom in the Ashkenazic world, lihit anot barishon, to fast in the first Adar, to commemorate the yahrtzeit on the first Adar. Mihu, however, yesh machmirin, lihit anot b'shneihem. There are those who will take on a stringency to fast both of them. Right? Both Adar Aleph and Adar Bet. Whatever date the person passed away on the 12th of Adar, both the 12th of Adar 1 and the 12th of Adar 2. Because, right, it would seem to me that A, I'm giving the honor at the earliest possible time. I'm giving more honor by doing both. And that way, as Cheryl said before, I'm doubly sure. Whichever one is the real Adar, I'm covered. When it came to bar mitzvah, there was an issue. There was an issue that if it was the second Adar, I can't celebrate. I can celebrate, but I can't have the person become bar mitzvah the first Adar. He's not yet bar mitzvah. So that's talking about obligations. That's talking about a person being the leader and we fulfilling our obligations through that person. Oh, that's already a whole different world. Over here, we're talking about giving honor, right? When in doubt, give honor. It's always good to give honor. Why not give honor? I always tell the bar mitzvah kids as they're preparing their speech, and I say, you have to make sure you thank people. And I say to them, in all my years as a rabbi, and the many bar and bat mitzvahs, I've never had someone approach me and say, they mentioned me. They mentioned my name. No one ever complained why they mentioned my name. However, I traveled here all the way from here and there, and they didn't mention my name. That already we can imagine someone, but not they would say that, but they might be thinking that. So when it comes to honor, there's no limits on that. Give the honor. So therefore, it's good to do it in both. So far, this approach has been following the idea that, well, one of them is the real Adar, and it's unclear which one it is. Purim, do we grab the first one? You don't want to pass a mitzvah. Do we grab the second one? That's what we do, back to back. Bar mitzvah, let's play it safe, doubly sure. The second one, the yahrtzeit, according to Shulchan Aruch, well, the second one, play it safe, be sure. The Ramah says, jump ahead, aim avirin, make sure you give the honor right away. Even better, do a double dose. So that's all based primarily on the same concept of we are not sure which one is the real one, and therefore in each of these situations, we need to decide which one we will go with. Yes, Janet?
Sorry, forgive me. Maybe I've been under a rock, but for yahrtzeits, one is supposed to fast?
There are those that have the custom to fast on a yahrtzeit, right? Typically, the world has gotten a little bit softer. So instead, what do? We have a little kiddush. And that way, we, in lieu of fasting, we have people make brachot, right? And that way, that's sponsoring the kiddush or bringing some cake and stuff, schnapps, right? In the morning, right? And that way, people are making brachot
In the
merit of, yeah. So that's typically what's done mostly, yeah.
But prior and historically, we fasted?
There are still people who do fast. Yeah, there are still people who do fast.
And is it like a 5 a.m. fast or is it from sundown?
No. It's a daytime fast from morning until night.
How would, as you go in learning, and how would one have been kept? I guess I need to go to the journey class.
Lunch and learn. We covered it now. Okay. Rav Shechter, in the name of Rav Soloveitchik, which you have in the bottom of the second side there, he has a fascinating approach. And that will explain a little bit better the fact that we are going to treat tonight, tomorrow, Friday night and Shabbos, which is Purim Katan, we're going to treat it somewhat as Purim, right? So let's see what he has to say. Rav Shechter in the name of Rav Soloveitchik. The Tanoim had a major dispute. Tanoim are those disputants of the age and stage of the Mishnah that we quoted in the very beginning from Megillah 6b. Had a major dispute regarding the observance of Purim during a leap year. Should the Megillah be read on the 14th of the first month of Adar or of the second month of Adar? The Tanoim give seemingly tangential reasons for their views of when the Megillah should be read. Oh, first one, don't pass by a mitzvah. Second one, back-to-back geula, redemption. That seems to be tangential reasons, and don't tackle the crux of the issue, which day is Purim. Don't give me these nice ideas. Don't pass by a mitzvah, right? We don't say have Pesach a month earlier because don't pass by a mitzvah, right? It's not a mitzvah until it's Pesach. So the issue is, which is the real Adar? When are the obligations? Don't give me these tangential reasons. Cut to the chase over here. What is the real Purim? Which day is Purim? Right? We don't say, start blowing shofar 2 months earlier. Therefore, it would appear that both Adars are really Adar. The 14th of both months is really Purim. In fact, the 15th of each month is also considered a day of Purim. And thus, a regular year has 2 days of Purim, and a leap year has 4 days of Purim. So we have 2 days of Purim on a regular year. We have what we call Purim and what we call Shushan Purim. In Jerusalem, they celebrate Purim on Shushan Purim, but they still look at the 14th as a day of Purim. We celebrate Purim on the 14th, but still view the 15th as a day of Purim. Meaning, the Talmud and the Shulchan Aruch, second paragraph there, point out that it is forbidden to fast or deliver a eulogy on any of the days of Purim. Whether one lives in Jerusalem and celebrates the 15th, Tel Aviv celebrates the 14th. We leave out Tachanun in a leap year. Tachanun is one of the sadder parts of the morning prayers, the afternoon also. That's left out on all 4 days of Purim. So the question of when one reads the Megillah is not really a question of which day is the real day of Purim, but rather they're all days of Purim. In Israel or here on a regular year, we have 2 days of Purim. What's the only question? When should the mitzvot of Purim be observed? But rather on which of the 4 days should one observe the mitzvos of Purim? And he gives a wonderful example. Pesach, how many days is the Pesach holiday? 7 days, 8 days, 7 days in Israel, 8 days here. So we have 7 days, 8 days of Pesach. But one can only observe the Seder when? On the first night. Outside of Israel, on the first and second night. So we have this construct of multiple days of holiday, yet the mitzvahs of the holiday are observed during this day of these multiple days, not on other days of the multiple days. Rosh Hashanah is biblically a 24-hour Yom Tov. We keep 2 days, but it's a 24-hour day Yom Tov. What is the mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah? Shofar. But one can only observe, but the mitzvah of shofar, can only be fulfilled during the day. So we have this day of Rosh Hashanah, but you can't blow shofar indiscriminately during any time of that day. The mitzvah is fulfilled when you blow shofar during the daytime, not during the nighttime. 7 days of Pesach, the Seder is fulfilled only the first night, first 2 nights, not during any of the days, not during any of the subsequent nights. Similarly, all 4 days are really Purim, but one cannot read the Megillah on whichever day one chooses. One Tan is of the opinion that we should not. So the question is only which of these 4 days of Purim should the mitzvot be fulfilled. One Tan is of the opinion that we should not postpone the reading of Megillah. Don't push it off to the second month, since we are not allowed to forego an opportunity to do a mitzvah. So now the question was not which day is Purim, and we're bringing to which we're bringing these strange tangential reasons. No, we know which day is Purim. There are 4 days of Purim. The question is, when should the mitzvot be fulfilled? In which case, these are not tangential reasons. These are reasons that address the very issue. One Tana says, don't postpone it to the second month. We're not allowed to forego an opportunity to do a mitzvah. Ein ma'avirin ala mitzvot. We don't pass by mitzvot. The second Tana insisted that we read the Megillah on the second Purim, closer to Pesach. That is when the mitzvah should be fulfilled. The mitzvah should be fulfilled in order to bring those mitzvot of Purim, not to bring Purim. Purim's there, but to bring the mitzvot of Purim, which represent that geula, back to back with the mitzvot of Pesach, and it works out beautifully. So the mitzvot of Pesach are the very beginning, and mitzvot of Purim are the very end. Right? We want to bring those two together. The observance of the yahrtzeit, the last paragraph now, is not purely a matter of minhag. Rather, the assumption is that since a person died on this day, perhaps this day is still a day of judgment for the deceased, or perhaps for the entire family, and as such ought to carry with it certain observances: fasting, reciting of Kaddish, learning Mishnayos, in order to mitigate the din. If we assume that both months of Adar are really Adar, then both possible days of the yahrtzeit may be viewed as Yemei Hadin, as days of judgment. And therefore, what the Ramah said, the Ramah's conclusion, that our custom is the first, but one can do the second also, it's not simply, hence, the yahrtzeit ought to be observed in both Adars, not merely out of doubt, misafek, as we were saying, to be doubly sure, but rather as a certainty. If both days are Purim and both days, right, so then the yahrtzeit is actually both days. So this is an incredible approach that he brings in the name of Rav Soloveitchik. So it's not a question of which is the real Adar. They're both real Adars. It's not a question which is the real Purim. They're all Purims. The question is, which of those days should we be observing the mitzvot of Purim? And therefore it would follow then that which of those days should we be following in terms of the yahrtzeit, then perhaps we should be doing both, since they both are the yahrtzeit. Now, how does that play now into Bnei Mitzvah, right? Meaning, if that were the case, so then the person, hey, 2 bar mitzvahs, that's not bad, double the checks. Feel bad for the parents, double the kiddush costs, right? But, right, it seems when it comes to bar mitzvah, though, we could present this as a beautiful idea, but when it comes to clear halachic ramifications, right? So there we will need to be doubly sure and make sure that the person, if he's being motzi, we'll have him putting on tefillin, have him doing all those things, but not have him leading the services which if actually he's not yet bar mitzvah, the stadium lights are not yet fully connected, then we don't want to all be left in the dark when we are relying on that young man to be leading the services for us. Yes, Janet.
So as far as those mitzvot, we see that only the matanat levanot are actually prohibited during Adar 1. So, and also the Megillah by
Right,
but
so we-
shouldn't we be still doing Shalach Manot?
So we see, yeah. So I explained earlier. The Gemara discusses that was really a template for the other three. In other words, we have 4 mitzvot of Purim, right? We have Megillah reading, we have the meal, we have Matanos Levyonim, we have Mishloach Manot, but actually we have 2.
And the shekel, the half shekel.
Yeah, that's before Purim, but fair enough. But Purim, we have those 4 mitzvot. Actually, we have 2 mitzvot of Purim. That is Megillah reading, and that is the Seudah, right? And we send manot to one another to make sure people have food for the Seudah. We send money to the poor to make sure they have the means for a Seudah, right? So I think the Mishnah is basically using one of each category, and it's representing all 4 of them. Okay. Yes, Mr. Dove.
Originally, every month we're supposed to have a festival, and are we gonna go back to that maybe?
I don't know if Cheshvan is going to have one.
But originally it set up every month was gonna be, and then something, whatever messed that up, and then.
I don't know. I don't know, Dove. I don't know the answer to that.
So
Yes, Dr. Ray.
Yes, my mother passed away on the 15th of Adar Beth.
Wow.
So when would I observe?
Okay,
Purim?
so that's a simpler one, right? Because that year there were 2 Adars, Adar Bet. So then the yahrtzeit will be Adar Bet.
When would I observe Purim?
So you will observe Purim on Purim, the 15th of, right? But so all the mitzvot would still apply, but you would say Kaddish during that day, right? So you would say Kaddish during that day. You might want to do a Kiddush around that, before or after that, right? But all the mitzvot of Purim are not going, right? Any of the mitzvot never get pushed aside for a yahrtzeit. Even Torah, right? I should say even Torah. Whether it's Torah mitzvah, the person can have a yahrtzeit on Yom Kippur, the person can have a yahrtzeit on Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, Pesach, right? Or Hanukkah or Purim. So all the mitzvot go as usual. But actually, if the 15th, so outside of Israel, right, we do all the celebration of Purim on the 14th, right? So that's Shushan Purim, right? So that would be the time to say all the Kaddishes, and it's a bit of a shortened davening. We don't say the Tachanun and things on that day. Yeah.
And the main mashal is don't die in Adar.
Yeah.
That avoids
yeah.
all this confusion.
Or do your best not to die at any point, right?
Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
From your mouth,
That's what.
So you drink until you see 2 hands. Still say Kaddish?
So in such a case, one would be careful. One would need to be careful to daven well at a point where one is where one is not. What was great community had a line? Just 1 second.
Confused from blessed is and cursed is.
Yeah, along those lines, so they say a person should think, what would I want people to be saying at my funeral? Right? So a comedian said, that's easy. Look, he's really alive. He didn't die, in other words. That's what I hope they'll say at my funeral. He's got a few more years to go. How about that? Surprise, surprise. Yes.
So the cow would say to you, I got 2 others, but I'm utterly confused.
Okay, Dove. All right, we'll call it over here, my friends. Point of diminishing returns. Okay. Yes.